Hello friends, you all were waiting for a very long time for me to make a video on a yoga called Neech Bhang Rajyog. So here Ricky Chadha is here with that yoga. But before I talk about this yoga, let me tell you that this is going to be a pretty long video because let me first explain to you what do you mean by Neech Bhang Rajyog. A Neech Bhang Rajyog means a planet in your horoscope is placed into a sign where it is debilitated. For example, let us start with Sun. Sun gets debilitated in the sign of Libra. Moon gets debilitated into the sign of Scorpio. Coming next is Mangal. Mangal gets debilitated into the sign of Cancer. Rahu and Ketu, we have to just leave it out. Next is Guru. Guru gets debilitated into the sign of Capricorn. Next comes Saturn. Saturn gets debilitated into the sign of Aries. Buddha, Mercury gets debilitated into the sign of Pisces. Venus gets debilitated into the sign of Virgo. Now, if you look at whenever a planet is debilitated, bang opposite to that sign is a place where it gets exalted. Now, there are some principles, there are some rules which cancels this debilitation, which means that planet which is Neecha or which is debilitated or in debilitation, people would think that this particular planet is going to do harm to you. Rather, what happens is this becomes a yoga-karak planet. It forms a yoga due to the 7 cancellations that I'm going to explain to you on the board, where it becomes so powerful that it gives you, it's like a Raj Yoga. Fine. So let us understand this particular Neech Bhang Rajyog in totality. Give me enough time. Pause your video if you want to make notes on it or whatever you feel like. Let us start and let us go to the board. Now, I'm taking you to the board. I have a very plain chart. I have not done anything on this chart for the reason that what I'm going to explain to you, simultaneously I'm going to tell you how these planets work or how Neech Bhang. Let us first define what is a Neech Bhang Yoga. The definition is the debilitation status of a planet. So a debilitation status of a planet in debilitation is cancelled. So debilitation gets cancelled and a Neech Bhang Rajyog is formed if any of these conditions, the conditions are done. There are 7. I could only put 1, 2, 3 over here. So any of the conditions below is met in the horoscope. So this is the horoscope which is blank. Now let us look at the first one. The first condition says, first condition says, if a debilitated planet with an exalted planet in a horoscope, that means if there is a debilitated planet in that sign when it is debilitated, it is along with the planet, okay, with a planet which is exalted. For example, I've given you one example and I will draw it on the board also. Venus and Mercury is in Pisces, where Mercury is debilitated and the Venus is exalted. So let us come over here and draw this. So this is the sign of Pisces and here you have got Mercury, which is obviously debilitated. Fine. And Venus over here is exalted. This will create a Neech Bhang Yog. The first condition is done. Now let us look at the second condition. If the lord of the sign where the planet is debiliated is in the same sign, which simply means if Mercury is debiliated over here, if this particular sign of Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. So if Jupiter was here, because it is in its own sign, even then the debilitation cancels. In the example I have shown, Jupiter, the lord of the Pisces, is placed in Pisces, along with Mercury debiliated. Or there is one more condition to it. Or Jupiter aspects Mercury from Virgo. So if Jupiter was not here, suppose it is not here, even if it was here, and it is aspecting from the sign which is ruled by Mercury, Virgo, even then the debilitation, the second condition also is fulfilled. So first what I explained to you. Second, now let us go on the third. Let me remove all this so that it becomes easy for us to understand. Now, third condition. If two debiliated planets are placed, if there are two planets which are in debiliation, are placed in the seventh sign with respect to each other, then also the debilitation gets cancelled. Now, for example, I have given you Mercury is in Pisces, it's here, and Venus is in Virgo. Now you know Venus in Virgo also is known to be, so this is debilitated, both are looking at each other, the debilation gets cancelled and it converts into a Raj Yog. Now we are coming to the fourth condition. Let me write it down. Stay tuned. Okay friends, so I'm sorry first of all, there are 6 conditions, not the 7. I was mistaken. So now let us come to the fourth condition now. Look over here. If the lord of the sign of debiliation of a debiliated planet is either exalted or is in the Kendra house. I'll explain to you once again. If the lord of the sign of debiliation, that means where the planet has gone and debilitated itself, the planet is either exalted or is in the Kendra house. I'll explain to you with the example. Mercury is in Pisces. So Mercury over here. So this is Mercury. Now Mercury is debilitated into this house, but the lord of this house is exalted. That means Jupiter is sitting here, right? Here. Jupiter is here. So it is exalted. The first condition. Or it is in the Kendra house. It is in the Kendra house also. But what if this chart was of somebody else and Mercury would have been somewhere else? Then two conditions. Either it is exalted or it is in the any of the Kendra house. These are the Kendras. Central house we call. This was the fourth condition which forms a Raj Yog in spite of the planet being debilitated. Now the fifth. If the lord of the exaltation of the debilitated planet is exalted or placed in the Kendra house, which means if the lord of the exaltation of the debilitated planet is exalted or placed in the Kendra house. Example. Let me first remove this so that we will be very clear about it. Okay. Jupiter is placed in Capricorn, which is the condition today. Today is the same condition. Jupiter is in Capricorn, right? Moon. Now Jupiter is supposed to be debilitated, but His exaltation sign is Cancer, which is ruled by moon. So being the lord of Cancer, where the moon gets exalted, is placed in Taurus. That means Jupiter normally gets exalted in Cancer, and the lord of this house, where it gets exalted, is itself exalted. That means it is in this house. So moon is exalted over here. Or if the moon was anywhere here, 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 or here, of course, moon if was over here, then the first principle or the second principle only applies over here, because moon is along. Moon is in Kendra. So if moon is along with Jupiter, then also it gets cancelled. So fourth is done, fifth is done. Now this is the last condition. If this condition also happens, then you are having a Raj Yog. Now this condition you have to understand very properly. If the debilitated planet becomes Vargotam. Now what do you mean by Vargotam? In a horoscope, which means it occupies the sign in Lagna chart, the same sign, occupies the same sign. The same sign in Lagna chart as well as in Nauman's chart. That means, suppose which planet, suppose Saturn, Shani Dev. This is the planet Saturn which gets debilitated, okay, in this particular house. Now, this is a D1 chart. In the D9 chart also, if Saturn is in Aries only, then this cancels the debilation and it becomes a Raj Yog or Neech Bhang Rajyog. The example given over here also is debilitated Mercury. Now again, Mercury is debilitated, so it is over here. Fine. But Mercury gets exalted where? Mercury gets exalted over here. Fine. But if Mercury is debilitated over here and is placed in the fourth pada, we have to go to my video on Nakshatra. If Mercury is placed in the fourth pada of Revati Nakshatra, it becomes Vargotama. It becomes Vargotam planet. So just to know Vargotam, it's very simple. Look at D1 chart and D9 chart. If the planet is debilitated in D1 chart, if in the same sign, it happens to be in any house, but if it happens to be in the same sign where it is in the D1 chart, that's known as Vargotama. So friends, this was all the conditions that applies, and now let us understand what happens if the Neech Bhanga Yog is there in your chart. Now Neech Bhang Yog, if it is there in your chart, it makes you very prosperous, famous, wealthy, a known figure in society, and I think this is one of the best Raj Yog that can happen to anyone. So Neech Bhang Yog or Raj Yog, if it is there in your horoscope, go and look at it. You are to be congratulated. You are blessed to have such a yog in your chart. Thank you so much. So this was pending from 2-3 comments had come requesting me to make on Neech Bhang Rajyog. So here I am. Share my video, like my video, and click on the notification bell as well. And stay blessed. Look into your chart. If there is a Neech Bhang Rajyog, thumbs up.